Our top story tonight, the Trump administration taking action amid an unprecedented crisis at our southern border. Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen now ordering a surge of Border Patrol agents to the U.S.-Mexico border as thousands of illegal migrants attempt to cross it every day. And while Democrats continue to ignore or even deny that there is a crisis, President Obama's former Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson says the numbers clearly demonstrate otherwise.
By any measure, 4,000 apprehensions on our southern border in one day, 100,000 in a month is a crisis. It's a crisis in Central America, where the poverty and violence is occurring that causes these people to flee in the first place. It's a crisis in that it overwhelms our border security personnel to deal with that volume of people coming in. And it's a crisis in these communities on the border that have to absorb these populations.
Meanwhile, President Trump is doubling down on his threat to close the U.S.-Mexico border if Mexico does not do more to help stem the tide of migrants. Joining me now, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. Ken, good to see you again. You know, it was only a month ago when the president was essentially called delusional by Democrats and some in his own party for saying that there was a crisis at the border. Now, even Obama officials are saying exactly the same thing. What happened?
Well, I mean, the numbers don't lie. When you're talking about almost 100,000 in a month, and those are just the ones that we're catching, who knows what the real numbers are. So I think, you know, even the Democrats are having to acknowledge we have a serious issue on the border.
Let me, though, play at least some Democrats, and I'll play one presidential candidate who is still talking about the border as though there's no crisis, no problem at all. Play the soundbite of Beto O'Rourke.
We do not need any walls. $30 billion, 2,000 miles long, 30 feet high, that will not be built on the international boundary line, which is the center line of the Rio Grande River. That wall will be built well into the interior, on someone's ranch, someone else's farm, someone else's home. You and I will be forced to take their property to solve a problem that we do not have.
A problem we do. You know, I was saying that the president was called delusional. Wouldn't you call that delusional to say we don't have a problem down at the border?
Absolutely. He's ignoring facts. We have human trafficking going on the border. I'd like to hear his response to the fact that Texas is the second worst state in the country for human trafficking. I'd love to hear him talk about all the homicides we've had and all the crime that we've had, about the drug smuggling. It's hard for me to believe that he's willing to say that in the face of facts.
Ken, when you have a crisis, when you have a tragedy, you have to set up usually a triage when emergency services go in to treat those who can be saved, to treat the most pressing problem that can be turned around. When you look at the crisis at the border, what needs treatment immediately? How would you do a triage on the border?
I think the first thing you do is start looking at technology. In what ways can we use technology better? Because that's something that can maybe be implemented faster. Obviously, what Kirstjen Nielsen did today by ordering more Border Patrol agents back to the border to actually stop people from coming in, that's the second thing that can be done more quickly. Obviously, the wall takes longer to build, and that's going to be a long-term project. So I would say in that order.
Well, you know, the word gets out. It always amazes me about the way the grapevine works in immigrant communities, all the way from their origins. And something is happening in Central American communities that make them believe that they have an easy pass once they go through the border. I mean, what specifically is it, do you know? Because we hear of these caravans now that are not just thousands of people, but tens of thousands of people organizing down there.
I think it's the loophole. It's the asylum loophole. They've been taught, they've been trained, they've been coached on what to say when they get there, and it's easy to get in because they can claim asylum and suddenly they're in the country and they get to wait for, you know, potentially years before they actually have to go before court, and many of them disappear. So I think they understand it's a pretty simple system to beat, which is why Congress needs to address our immigration laws.
So what's the best, I mean, other than getting Congress together, because, Ken, you and I know that won't happen. I mean, even when Republicans had both houses and the presidency, it didn't happen. The same thing with Democrats. So short of that, short of having some miracle and a consensus in Congress, what can be done to change that amnesty provision that Central Americans are taking advantage of?
Well, I mean, obviously, the law has to be changed. If Congress is not going to do it, the president's dealing it in the best way he can. One, he's threatening to cut off aid, which maybe will provide some incentive for these countries to stop this illegal immigration north. And other than that, I mean, all he can do with this crisis on the border and the fact that we have our detention centers filled, all he can really do is send them away and tell them that not to come back until their hearing is up.
It's just unbelievable. By the way, very quickly, we keep hearing charges against the president saying you've got to listen to the experts and come to. That's what the Democrats say. Listen to the experts. I've seen and heard from a lot of experts who say a wall would work pretty well. You're closer to the experts than most people. You deal with them every day. What do they tell you about a wall?
Look, I've been to the border. I've seen places where we don't have a wall, where people just walk across, and I've seen places where we have a fence or a wall, whatever you want to call it, and people do not cross. It's a fact. It works. If you put a wall up, you're going to prevent some illegal immigration, probably a high percentage of it. So I don't understand this idea. I mean, we have it in other countries where, you know, Israel's put up a wall. It works if you put up a wall that's effective.
Attorney General Ken Paxton, great to see you, Ken. Thank you very much.